This video shows the aftermath of the police killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville nearly 4 months ago. Officers conducting a drug raid burst into Taylor's home and shot her 8 times. National correspondent Jerika Duncan has a video showing the tension between police and Taylor's boyfriend.
So the same prosecutors who have not charged the Breonna Taylor cops actually tried to smear her name involving another separate drug case. One of her ex-boyfriends, Jamarcus Glover, was arrested in Louisville during a raid, and cops have him on drug dealing and gun charges. He was going to get 10 years in prison, and they said, you know what, we'll let you off with just probation, but you have to say that Breonna Taylor was involved in the drug dealing. She had nothing to do with drug dealing. They didn't find any drugs in her apartment.
What they were doing is trying to just simply dirty her up so that people wouldn't care enough and maybe the cops would get off. I don't know how else you look at this. And by the way, he said no. The guy rejected it and said, I'm not going to say that.
It's sort of even worse. There was a jailhouse phone call where that guy, Glover, was saying Bree had nothing to do with this.
And so they manufactured a statement that they wanted him to own that had no reason to think that it was true. And it was all designed just to dirty her up after she was killed.
Intent was to give her plenty of time to come to the door because they said she was probably there alone.
But she wasn't alone. Walker, a licensed gun owner, fired one shot, hitting Mattingly in the leg.
The door comes off the hinges. So I just let off one shot. I still can't see who it is or anything.
And so I just returned fire. I got 4 rounds off. And it was simultaneous. It's boom, 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 boom.
Since Taylor's death, Louisville banned no-knock warrants. State Senator Robert Stivers is working to do the same for Kentucky.
It should have not been done the way it was. And under this proposal that I'm in draft on, it would have never happened the way it happened.
Palmer tells me that she lived in that apartment with her older sister, Breonna Taylor, and that she often thinks about had she been there that night, she could have died too.
Tag 3, everyone. Breonna Taylor's sister, Janiyah Palmer, posted this neighbor's video on social media Wednesday night. In it, police are seen in front of the apartment building where Taylor and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker lived. Police are pointing guns and shouting commands at Walker, who they later arrested.
Turn around, face away! Turn around, face away!
You can hear Kenny saying, my girlfriend's in there, she's been shot, and their main concern was not my sister.
Just minutes before, Louisville officers executed a no-knock search warrant at Taylor's home as part of a drug investigation. But attorneys for Taylor's family say no drugs were ever found. In newly released audio of Kenneth Walker's interview with Louisville police, Walker says he and Taylor were in bed the night of March 13th when they heard someone banging on the door.
She's like, who is it? Loud at the top of her lungs. No response.
Louisville police say officers did knock and identified themselves, but Taylor's family attorney, Ben Crump, says that's not true.
Everybody there said they never heard the police identify themselves.
In his interview with investigators, Louisville Police Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly explained that despite having a no-knock warrant, they knocked because they didn't consider Taylor a major threat.
Who fired their weapon. 2 of them have been placed on administrative reassignment during the ongoing investigation, and one of them, Gail, was fired.
And the community is still calling for arrest in that case. Jerika, the more you hear about this case, the more disturbing it is and the more questions are raised.
The deadly police shooting of Breonna Taylor. Her boyfriend now suing the Louisville Police Department. He believes the Stand Your Ground law gives him immunity for opening fire as officers executed a warrant on the apartment. His lawyer also raising questions tonight about who actually shot and wounded an officer. Here's ABC's Janae Norman.
Tonight, in a new lawsuit, Kenny Walker, the boyfriend of Breonna Taylor, claiming immunity under Kentucky's Stand Your Ground law. Walker saying he never heard police announce themselves when he fired. Police then firing back, killing Taylor, a 26-year-old EMT.
I am a legal gun owner, and I would never knowingly shoot a police officer.
To kill officers, those charges dismissed without prejudice, meaning they could be refiled. The lawsuit seeking to prevent officials from arresting, detaining, charging, or prosecuting him again in the March 13th shooting.
The charges brought against me were meant to silence me and cover up Breonna's murder.
Walker is also seeking damages for what he calls gross negligence.
What's this past week been like for you?
Well, we technically haven't been real life in the protesting because they're not allowing us to be in it. Well, it's not that they're not allowing us. They don't want us to get arrested and the police feel like they have something against us when time comes for us to actually present ourselves on our case. Seeing the support and the love that my sister's actually getting has been very, very nice, but it's just rough when the rioters, the ones who's breaking into buildings, try to attach her name to that, because that's not
For her and those that I love, I can no longer remain silent.
Protests as recent as last week continue to call for accountability 6 months after the shooting. Kentucky's Attorney General confirming his office has received the FBI ballistics report, which he calls a critical piece of this investigation. And one of the 3 officers involved in Taylor's death has been fired, but none of them have been charged. And Kenneth Walker...
People knew about her, some people didn't. It was kind of mixed about it, but it was hard and it felt real lonely for my family because it felt like we were just in the fight by ourselves and there was nobody else in the fight with us. So now knowing that there is other people and there's people that's willing to help, that's willing to stand up for her, that's willing to help us be her voice, it feels great. Because it no longer feels lonely. It technically wasn't 50 people, but I felt like it was just me and 50 people who knew my sister's name. And with the news, the way the news articles were making her seem, it looks like, I don't know how to say it. It just looked like a case going wrong to the people until we actually spoke out and were correcting people, like correcting the news as a family with our lawyers, correcting her name. Because originally they were calling her a suspect. She's not a suspect. They were trying to say my sister was in some drug ring. She's not in a drug ring. I lived in that house. I know firsthand there's no drugs in that house. And they were making it seem like it was. So it was the loneliest 2 months, the loneliest fight. Now I'm grateful that there's people helping us. There's no words to describe the thank you that I can give people because technically her name could still be going silent like they were trying to sweep it under the rug, but now it's not being swept under anymore. My sister, like my mom said before, she's the perfect person. Even though there's no perfect person, she literally was the perfect person. She was genuinely sweet and she cared for everybody. When I say everybody, I mean everybody. Doesn't matter.
Do you have like favorite memories with your sister?
Like the car rides was fun with my sister. They're like the funnest things ever. She'd be like, oh yeah, what are you doing this weekend? I'd be like, nothing. She'd be like, okay, well let's go to North Carolina. Okay, well let's just go. Like we would just get up and do anything in the car.
And what would you do when you're in the car with her?
Sing. Well, she would sing even though I told her she can't, but she did anyways.
Not a good voice?
No, not at all.
Well, what songs would she sing to?
She sung just any song that she actually had on her phone. Her favorite, well, it's not really her favorite song, but a song she wanted to get married to was My Everything by Mary J. Blige. So she sung that one with every piece of voice she had in her throat.
She wanted to be a nurse. Your sister? Why'd she want to be a nurse?
She wanted, being an EMT was fun, but she wanted to be more hands-on in the actual hospital. She wanted to be able to connect with her patients, take her time with them, versus in the EMT, when they're in their truck, they only get maybe up to 30 minutes, depending on how far the hospital is with them. And then when they're in the hospital, they're transferred to their nurses within the hospital. So, and then she goes back onto another case. Versus in the hospital, she can be assigned to patients. And she just wanted to be able to take her time with a person, understand this person, help this person better. Like, she was one of those, there's a problem, we're gonna fix your problem. And we're gonna take our time fixing our problem. We're gonna try different solutions to fix your problem. She just loved it.
She liked to help people.
Yes. But she wanted to be more either a NICU or an ER nurse because it's more fast and it's different cases. You get spontaneous with those. Like, you get so many different things. And she kind of liked new cases. I don't know why.
Talk to you about the plans that she had for the future.
So she was looking forward. She really was looking forward to having a kid. That's really been taken from her, and I don't think it's fair. But she really wanted to have a kid. She had just started collecting, my sister was she was really big into shoes. So she had just started collecting Jordans that she already had that other people were trying to get rid of that she had, so that way when she had her kid, they can actually match. Because I don't know why, but she thought that was cute, but it was kind of corny to me.
Name is being said, especially in Louisville, especially in Kentucky, but around the country. Do you feel like your sister's death is getting as much attention as it should?
Around the country, no, but I think that's more so because women are usually always downputted So because a man died before her and a man passed away after her, her name kind of got smothered. Some people know, some people don't, but her name got smothered because there's no video to attach to my sister.
So the same prosecutors who have not charged the Breonna Taylor cops actually tried to smear her name involving another separate drug case. One of her ex-boyfriends, Jamarcus Glover, was arrested in Louisville during a raid, and cops have him on drug dealing and gun charges. He was going to get 10 years in prison, and they said, you know what, we'll let you off with just probation, but you have to say that Breonna Taylor was involved in the drug dealing. She had nothing to do with drug dealing. They didn't find any drugs in her apartment.
What they were doing is trying to just simply dirty her up so that people wouldn't care enough and maybe the cops would get off. I don't know how else you look at this. And by the way, he said no. The guy rejected it and said, I'm not going to say that.
It's sort of even worse. There was a jailhouse phone call where that guy Glover was saying Bree had nothing to do with this.
And so they manufactured a statement that they wanted him to own that had no reason to think that it was true. And it was all designed just to dirty her up after she was killed.